Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I hear a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
And moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Pose same sign. Motion carries. You hear us all right, Anthony?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. First up is information items. Ben Franklin's Safe Routes presentation.
I have physical copies of the.
And I think Ashley should get your PowerPoint ready to go and she'll be sharing it, so it'll be ready to go, as well as whatever you'd like to share.
I will start my spiel to be respectful of your guys' time while I'm passing all of these out. Yeah. So I'm Aaron Breitsch. I'm the MPOW director with the Benson Franklin Council of Government.
Thank you.
And we started a regional approach to the Safe Routes to School program. So we were approached by a different city back in 2021, saying, would you be looking at doing anything for Safe Routes to School on a regional scale? So I asked WashDOT, would I get in trouble if I build time for this? Washington State Department of Transportation. I talk in a lot of acronyms, so if you have any questions, please. They said no, so sweet, we started running with it. And we started a regional Safe Routes to School action plan. So with this, it's a Safe Routes to School is a federal program, just like the name says, identifying safe routes for kids to get to and from school. Not only are we trying to do this at the elementary school level, we also want to apply it to the middle schools and high schools. It's a much more broad approach, kind of a big methodology, so it can be implemented at any different jurisdiction and at any different level. So within your packet and in the presentation, there's some informational slides about why this is picking up traction right now. There's a Safe Routes to School program, which a lot of people are familiar with, but there's also a program called SF4A, Safe Streets for All. This is something that we're actually working with the city of Crawford on. They have their own separate application. So we are doing a regional approach to Safe Routes to School. But ultimately, our goal is to help the school districts and the jurisdictions get money to fund projects, to get kids to school safely and home from the school safely. So that's the very broad approach to all of this. And on the back, in the last couple of pages of the packet, same thing that you'll see online. We have drafted some suggested walking routes and biking routes to and from schools. For last month or in August, we held an informal interview with Kim, and she gave us some, it was actually the week before school started. And she gave us some input on the maps, kind of, hey, we don't go to school here. We don't walk to and from school. So what the routes, if you can go to like slide 6, any one of the routes. We're proposing these suggested walking routes. This is a good example. We're proposing these suggested walking routes, and we want them to be marked up. They are by no means the correct answer. We found an experience it's much easier to solicit feedback to people when we put something in front of you. People can say, no, this is actually correct versus, oh, I don't know where to start. So this is an example of a school or for Prosser Heights Elementary. And then if you could go to the next slide, please. So we have, as you can see, this is documenting the Keene Riverview Elementary School. It shows where all of the crosswalks are within a mile radius, and then just some identified walking and biking routes. And then on the next slide as well, you can see Housel Middle School. This is also identifying some walking and biking routes. So we are very much in the infancy stage of this process. We started this in July, and this will be going until March is when we're anticipating adoption of the plan. So right now we have a survey out that you might have seen online that's soliciting feedback about how your kids or how you perceive walking to and from school is. So with these maps, we're seeking feedback and we'll be in contact with the different principals and the school district of trying to get these maps in front of as many eyes as possible to solicit the best feedback, because by no means do we know what's best for people that are actually walking to and from.
Yeah, there's a lot of places in Prosser with no sidewalk.
Mhm.
So that's, and no crosswalk.
Yeah.
So,
I think we got the good fortune last summer to have that sidewalk from Midway Concord on Payne Hill
Yes.
down to the pole, which is huge improvement with as many kids.
yes, and then there's places we have sidewalks on one side, but not on the other, so they always have to cross,
Yeah,
so. Adults freak me out crossing the highway, people walk their dogs across there.
and ultimately, we want these maps to be identifying the locations of, hey, we know that this location is an issue, and then we can pass it off to the or the different jurisdictions. So for example, the city of Prosser, and then they can identify a project. It checks a box on their grant applications. Hey, it's in the regional active transportation, plan. It's in the regional safe routes to school plan. It makes it so much more appealing when the grant application is handed over. Yeah, it's meeting all these different needs that are identified.
You mentioned a survey. Is that on our website? Is that how do we access the survey?
I can forward you the information. It's on the Benton Franklin Council of Governments website.
You send that to us, we'd be happy to
Yeah.
promote it through our website and do our social media platforms.
And if there's any way, I'll say you can solicit, we have an English and Spanish, and then we're also starting a Russian focus group and a German focus group as well. So if you have I'll say those types of populations who are speaking in Prosser, in about 3 weeks, we should have the survey.
Yeah, I think it'd be important to get it on our website or get it issued to the parents.
And we
Um,
could even send it out there.
Yeah, we could even do a direct push.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
I think this is really helpful. I appreciate it.
And we do not have all of the answers. This is the first time we've tried to do something like this at this scale of regional safe routes to school. So any local input, please let us know. The routes, we're not tied to them at all. Hey, no, this way would be much better. These,
So just to clarify, part of this project is to get grant funding for the cities to put in bike paths, sidewalks, all that kind of structure to get kids safely to school as part of an overall project.
I would, in easy answer, yes. So we don't give the money out. Kind of, this is to make the city of Prosper's application much more applicable.
Okay.
With the bipartisan infrastructure law, there was a bunch more money that went into safe routes to school, bunch more money that went into safe streets for all. So if the city of Prosper wanted to apply for a project, this would make it much more. Gotcha.
So can I, on the maps?
Yeah.
Did people actually go watch kids walk to school?
No, we use something called level of traffic stress, so it's, if it's incorrect, we would.
I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I'm not
no.
saying it's wrong. I just was curious if we're looking at patterns of where kids
Yeah.
are coming out of.
No,
Yeah.
we developed something called level of traffic stress, so it's perceived stress of somebody walking along the side of the road based upon number of cars and different statistics, so it was done at that scale.
Okay.
But no, it's not done by.
Okay, okay.
So that would be the type of thing that we really.
Thank you. Any other questions for Aaron?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I'll make sure that I get this survey link over.
Yeah, if you can get them to, our administrative team would be happy to support that.
Yeah, thank you for having.
Thanks, Aaron. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, moving on to discussion items. Number 1 is the Valley-wide cooperative.
So Andy was going to be here to do this, and now he's dealing with that vandalism issue, so I'm gonna share with what it is. You have the document in front of you. It basically is, Valley-wide Cooperative came to us and said, we'd like to earn your business on a basis. How it was explained to me from Andy was, you know how you'll get a credit card solicitation and it says, for the first year, you get 0% interest. So they gave us quite a reduced rate. It's an introductory rate. It's not a forever rate. If you look at the document, I believe it says 1 year or something like that. Is that a correct statement? It says one,
Alleywide used to be Blile, is that correct?
yes. And so, anyhow, it's that kind of a relationship that they're asking to rebuild with the district. Obviously, I need the support of, and the reason we're discussing it now is the relationship we have now. Sometimes it's good to have competition, right? Because then they compete for the business in the future. However, sometimes it also destroys relationships when you put one against another. And so you have to kind of decide. The other thing, for example, is if you put it out for bid, then the best one could bid and you could do it that way. Because our volume is large enough that, our cost that we spend on fuels, right, is large enough that we could RFP, a request for proposal, and we could do it that way. I just didn't know what your thoughts are on soliciting. Do you want to do it through, I think we legally have to do it from RFP. I don't think we can just take someone's bid. My question was, do you want me to investigate what would happen if we went out to a request for proposal for pricing on our fuel? Or do we want to have status quo?
You're talking fuel or propane?
Well, propane in this situation, but we could do it for all fuels.
I think we went through the fuel process like a year ago, I think, when Lyle's converted to Valleywide.
Okay.
And I don't know if we.
So then we
got a
wouldn't
better-
have-
That was literally fuel, not propane.
Correct. I guess my question would be, and I don't think we got a better deal. I think it was gonna be a mess, so we just stuck with Valleywide.
Okay.
Do we use enough propane that this would make a difference? Or where's it, like, where do we have propane tanks at, other than the shop?
Woodstrand used to be the biggest user, I thought.
And
And I don't know when
and
the
that's why with Andy
conversion-
not being here to really tell you the volume and the
I
usage
don't
and
know
where
if
the
the
things are.
conversion to Woodstrand changed from
Where was it?
propane or not, I'm not. I don't-
With the remodel.
Took the tank away.
I'm not
Would you
sure.
text him and see what it comes up? He might be able to answer us that question since we're in a discussion type thing. I just, they do our fuel, so do we want to have them just service us as a total, right?
Really think of the high school for like the labs.
Small one, but it's probably probably pretty limited. I mean, they'd probably use it at certain times during certain,
It's fewer probably.
yeah,
If
I
it's
mean,
under labs.
my tank at my house. I think maybe it got filled, topped off once during the winter. We used our fireplace a lot. Like, so I don't think our Bunsen burners are burning a lot of propane here.
So, I mean, I just don't know enough with Andy was gonna be here. And is that Andy? Andy, are you on? Is that Andy Howe?
I
Okay.
And when we went out, the fuel bid was that a 2 year?
I thought it was a 2-year, but
So that we were kind of locked in for a couple of years anyway. For the fuel bid, right?
For gas.
Yeah, was diesel, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
It was all fuel,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, if we're to go through all the work of doing this, I would have to think that it would have to be worth it and a significant cost savings, so I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just my personal, but I mean, if we're using 200 gallons of propane a year,
Is
I
it
go through
really,
that in my barbecue, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
it'd have to be a volume.
A lot of
okay.
barbecuing, to be honest, so.
Yeah.
He hasn't answered, but if he does, I'll just share when we get further.
I don't know what your guys' thoughts are.
I would say like, we need some more information.
Yeah.
And Andy had a kind of a little speech he was gonna do for you, but I think he's Andy Howe was
Yeah,
gonna
keep
tell you what he was doing, and I just, because he got tied up with the police, I just don't think. he
Maybe
can.
we can put it on as a discussion item
Sure.
for the
Yep.
next meeting.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Moving on to item 2 is nut-free school.
So, I brought this up after I learned that we have 2 students now in our school system that are airborne nut allergies. Not just contact or indigestion, ingesting. Nut-free public environments is becoming more and more popular, or common, I should say popular, I should say common. That's how we don't have nuts on an airplane anymore. The way our air systems are, they're so tight. If you have an airborne issue and somebody opens a package of peanuts in this floor and you're across the building, whatever, it is sometimes, depending on the severity of the allergy, just a matter of minutes until that's set. So initially, it was easy to talk with our food service and say, okay, we're gonna go nut-free in our food service. That's no peanut butter, use corn oil, not canola oil. I mean, it just kind of goes from there. Then we discussed, what does it mean to be nut-free in a district? So that impacts concession stands, how you market yourself to other athletic events, who uses our building that we like, or AAU, right? If you're gonna be nut-free, then the garbage shouldn't have any nut packaging in it. That's Reese's Pieces, that's Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, Snicker bars, right? So if you're really nut-free, that means nut-free. And then we discussed tree nuts. So if you're really gonna be nut-free, does that mean all tree, walnuts, almonds, right? Just not peanuts. My request is to have this discussion. I think it's a good way to take our district. I think it's not something you have to say on January 1, we're nut-free, right? I think you move towards educating, teaching, and for the 24-25 school year so that you have time to prep your families for cupcakes, chocolate chip cookies with no walnuts, no peanut butter cookies. You have the,
Chocolate chip cookies with certain kinds of chocolate chips.
yeah, and
I have a
so,
son who's not, and he life-threatening allergy to peanuts and tree nuts. And so, it is very common in school districts to be nut-free, and it would just be a lot safer for our kids.
and the other thing is we talk about identifying or being
So Brian's
respectful and FERPA and hip, right? So we don't have to, you don't have to wear a red button on your shirt that says, stay away from me with your nuts. And it's something that you would just do in a process. So we've started in our food service, that's easy. We'd allow our, Mr. Bailey's here, so that starts mainly, you have a little more concessions at middle school and high school, right? So slowly getting rid of all of them and selling, and then now moving from this date forward, we don't buy any of that. We buy sugar candy, and so, we have a limited list and everybody's known. Then you notify the CWAC. So from my past experiences, Grandview is now nut-free, right? So they send out a letter, and you can't stop everything, but then all the coaches know if you have your granola, it stays on the bus, that kind of thing. I just wondering what your thoughts are. Do you think this is something you would like us to expand on? I just need to know if you would like me to keep going and pursuing the fact that we become a nut-free district.
I support it. My daughter has a friend that has an airborne nut allergy, and they're older now, but even I can't imagine as a kindergarten mom, like having to worry, can my daughter remember her EpiPen? Is there sub that day that's gonna remember that there's an EpiPen? And I don't know if you've seen someone go into anaphylactic shock, or a grand mal seizure, and it's terrifying. And if we can do anything to keep our kids safer. I know it's a matter of education and training, but I do think it's important. I think it's a hippie issue. I think it's a health. I mean hippie specifically, like hippies, not vegetarian sort of store hippies, not HIPAA law. I think it's a safety issue, and it is pretty common. I think it's a matter of educating people, but it does keep.
And I think if we do it slow, like I said, we're not saying throw out your candy that you've got in the ASB storeroom, right? We slowly do that, and then our fundraisers that go. So we have a little flyer that goes on your facility use request, right? Then it just is a notification, and we can't protect everybody from everything, but at least we show our due diligence and
Well, I'll tell
protecting
you,
our
when my
community
son
members.
was in first grade, He was very, he knew, and he was a little guy that didn't say hardly anything. But a parent she made trail mix and she put M&Ms in it. And she goes, I got this for you. It was plain M&Ms, which are all nut exposed. And she goes, I made this for you. And he always used the phrase, no, it touches nuts. I can't have that. And he goes, no, I can't have that. It touches nuts. And she goes, no, it doesn't. I get made this just for you. This is a person who subs in our district, was, if I said her name, you would all know her. And she meant well, but she argued with him. And he knew she was wrong. He was 6 years old. And he finally just said, okay, thank you. And he put it in his bag and he came home and he goes, Mom, she told me that I could have this, but I knew I couldn't. I knew she was wrong. And so, but there's a lot of 6-year-olds that will go, okay, and eat it.
Mhm.
And so it is a process of educating parents that, yes, plain M&Ms do get exposed to nuts. You can't give those to kids who have. We had a middle school kid at one time at the middle school who ate, there was a granola bar and he ate it. And it's like, it said clearly on the package, like, you're allergic to nuts. Yeah, but I wanted to try it.
Yeah.
He was in 7th grade. So you just don't know what. Yeah.
I think it's a smart move. I think you just do it, educating, and I think we just move forward with it.
So with your okay, I will pursue if there needs to be a policy, you know what I'm saying? I will continue, with your okay, I'll pursue if it needs to be a policy, and then I can share some steps moving forward, and we'd start slow, right? Rolling it out with the goal of being for 24-25 school year, we would be in that preschool. And so it's not, and we'd start the education process, how we would do it in fall registration packets. We'd try and do it real friendly so that we could be confident with what we're sharing.
With all this information that you're gathering, can you look at what that does to, or maybe gather information, what that does to the concession? Maybe offerings and or potential revenue loss or gain?
I don't know that I would be able to provide you with any data. I can give you qualitative data. In Grandview, when we went and removed it, the initial shock was I can't have peanut M&Ms, I can't have Snickers. So we have Milky Way and we have regular M&Ms. And they did more of the suckers and the things. And
Okay.
so it's not like we took away 10 items and we didn't put 10 items back.
Okay.
So
It is
there,
by other candy.
yeah, it just was different stuff that we chose. So it didn't really, I think initially it was like, oh, peanuts. And then we had vending machines. So we had to work with Coke to make sure that they didn't fill anything with, it's
You have to
bigger
look
than
at how you're, like, if you get the prepackaged popcorn stuff, is it coming in peanut? Like, there's a lot of,
there's
like,
lots of
our school
pieces.
store sells ramen, a lot of ramen is nut exposed.
So you just,
Cup and noodle?
yeah. So you just have-
Certain brands.
Yeah, so you just have to start the education process, and you don't want to keep telling people no,
I'm here
we
to
want to
inform.
give them solutions.
Is
So-
there a specific, well, do we buy all that stuff through like cash and carry and all
Yeah.
that stuff? Oh, okay. So they wouldn't have like a purchase list that says nut free.
No,
We
you
would-
just have to read.
Mhm.
the
And
package,
so
it's all packaged.
Darlene will manage all that through food service, our ASB
She's already
team,
stopped ordering.
She stopped
anything.
ordering, we
Anything else, yeah.
train our ASB, they would have a list, so the kids would say, here's your 100 approved candies, here's the brand you can buy for popcorn, those kinds of.
Sounds good. Any other questions?
Plenty of stuff to eat.
Oh, I'm
licorice,
sure.
Gummy bears.
And sour stuff. Yeah, there's delicious stuff. Those Tootsie Rolls we took from the candy back in the bucket out there.
All right, moving on, remodel of Old Prosser High School.
I just want to touch base. Craig is working with Dan Purefoy. We've got some dreams and some visions. And I want to share where I'm thinking and what I'd like to hear some feedback from you is to make sure my dream and the district's dream and the school board's dream, right? The community's dream is, because I wasn't here when the new building was built and what the dreams were for the old building and so forth. And so we're getting ready to work on the HVAC system so that we can inhabit more of the building. We're working on, if you go down the hallways now, the stuff's out of the hallways, and we're getting ready for surplus sale possibly on the Friday we're off for,
Veteran.
Veterans Day. We have just some more stuff and we're cleaning out, so we're just getting it down. And then remember all of the class of pictures on the wall with Cougar Digital to get them digitized. We will keep them forever. We'll take them out, get them digitized, and then put the glass back in and store them. But they'll be able to be on the screen down here. With the hope of having our district offices there. That's everything from Sean's IT department to special education, migrant services, all of the things, and hope of even developing what I call an educational incubator. So we hear about needing counselors in our area. They come from Richland, they come from whatever. Can we use the word reap the benefits of some of the costs? I don't know what those, but if they have 3 counselors who want to come, they can rent one of the classrooms, and one's here on Monday and one's here on Tuesday, and as long as everything's student focused, right? And so we just want to kind of share with you, we're working on ripping out the shrubs and restriping the parking lot and cleaning it up and making it our home in a place that, if you've been to downtown Sunnyside, they took their old school and they've worked on the front and applying for a grant for the new windows that are actually, what's that called? Age appropriate, the building appropriate windows? Historically appropriate windows. So they're modern, but they're either wood or they're whatever. And so we're working with the historic downtown processor.
Yeah.
I think is the
That's it,
name of
that's
the,
right.
is that the right order?
Mhm.
Anyhow, they're gonna help us in finding some grants for those things. And I just wanted to share with you, and if you could give me any feedback on what your hope and dream was for when the high school was built. When this building was built and what the dream was for that building. So make sure that I'm following the dreams of the community.
It
So
was before our time, but go ahead.
it was, but I will say, so one thing that you talked about the class composite photos, and I would say the community's expectation is that those photos are gonna be on the wall in those spots
Okay.
for the remainder of time.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So instead of storing them, we need to put them back up.
Instead of digitally storing them and then storing them, I mean, digitally putting them on this screen, put them back up.
Yeah, like
Okay.
where they were.
Okay.
They need, some of them need some work there.
Oh, yeah, for
other
sure.
stuff.
I mean, it's been a long time since we after Washington went to vote by mail, but you used to vote in the NPR. And I will tell you, standing in line my whole life, my grandmother would like, and there's that photo, and that's like everybody's story. Like you went through and like, there's your uncle, there's your mother, there's your third
Okay.
cousin. But I feel like there's a deep tradition and connection to that. And there would
Okay.
be
See, those are things I need to know.
Those are beloved
a lot.
photos.
Okay.
So Peggy and I were here, but if there really wasn't, the money that was set aside was for very minimal improvements and to tear down the old science wing.
Could you help me out with what's the old science?
Well, the wing that goes, the one
By
that's
the
still
old
there
tennis
finished, that where
courts.
we put CBC and
Okay.
Yeah,
that was going to get torn down and keep the original historic portion. But even at that, there wasn't really gonna be enough money to do really much of anything. So a
Modernize
facelift,
the
kind of a
office area.
facelift, yeah.
So the facelift idea with some fresh paint, a little bit of flooring,
Air-
new
the
toilets.
A- we knew that the AC, the heating, and the AC needed to be upgraded. We knew that there was gonna be some roof.
Okay.
That needed to be taken care of, office space needed to be taken care of, but it was really, really important, and our promise to the community was that the historical features of the facility were going to be maintained. The pictures were in the hallways were going to be maintained. That was really important to the
Okay.
community, and so Elisa's right, people are going to come in and they're going to want to see, yep, there's our pictures.
We could actually make it better because I do believe there are pictures stored somewhere that are between like the first class and the
Yeah.
first 20 years. I think there's more
And
pictures that
so
aren't up.
keeping that promise is really important. The one thing that we did say was that whole science wing was coming out. that is that part of the facility was really just,
And the library, that area was like if the district office, boardroom, that kind of thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I think that's why it's really important for me to talk about this in public and the study session as well. That we want the community and people to know that we want to do our part as a district to what the dreams and visions were
Right.
for that. And that's where we're heading. We have the best interest of the
right.
community and the Prosser School District as we make these adjustments and changes to the band room for tech and doing some things so that everybody's in one location. The amount of time that we spend walking just between the two of our offices and things like that is
We talk on the phone all the time.
because we just,
It's-
it's just that. So I just wanted to have it open in an open discussion and let you know that that's what we're trying to do. And whenever we get ready to really make any things, obviously we would come with proposals and monies and numbers and so forth, but I just wanted to make sure people knew that they see things getting cleaned up or going on. I want them to know that that commitment is still there.
But yeah, that I mean, that was a real promise that we made to the community about maintaining the integrity of the original high school. It was near and dear to the community that it wasn't just going to be abandoned. It wasn't going to be just forgotten or torn down. They wanted the ivy. They wanted the high school, the original high school, to be loved and taken care of. So
I see the ivy's growing back.
Mhm.
And the only thing I would add is, as we look at projects like this, I think it's part of a broader discussion of doing a complete facilities plan.
Yep.
I think we're doing a lot of good things by getting some little things done, like the track, which is super important for our track kids. I'm looking at tennis courts and trying to have good facilities to do it, but without having an actual plan on our facilities, we're kind of shooting in the dark a little bit. I know the old high school was part of the original bond. And we took some of those monies, so Whitstrand, because it's more important than, I'm sorry, but it's more important
Than our office.
than your office.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't
agree.
vote, but I.
but I think, if we could start putting together that document, so we actually have, this building's 3 years old now. It goes fast, right?
Goes real fast.
And I imagine technology's moving faster than the 3 years. So having all this stuff in a plan, and I bet you, and I would think Dan would be able to help us,
Mhm.
especially with the new buildings. I don't know about the old stuff, but at
It's
least
on
the
our
new buildings.
strategic plan. We need to do it.
But I think that needs to be started like
Sooner than
now,
later.
so that we can have plans going forward. I know cost estimates will be ever changing, like you said, but at least if we have, this board or future boards, and they'll have a plan going forward. So I think that's part of not only this discussion, but part of the greater discussion of things that we're still missing.
Yeah, and I think that's part of this whole piece, as you've gotten to know me, is taking that vision and moving it and taking the strategic plan and moving forward with that. Honoring what's already been said to some level or another, and communicating that we heard, it was heard and it's not forgotten. And then not the next item, but when we talk a couple items from now, I think you'll see where that kind of wraps around a little bit, and where that long-term facility planning comes really into play.
I agree.
Questions, comments?
My only comment is the big propane, the only place we use propane, and he didn't tell me how much, is Whitstrand. Aside from probably very little up here, but it's Whitstrand. I thought it used to run the pump, but I don't know. I don't know if that's right. Like it was like out where the pump was, by the pump house, the tank was, but I don't know what I don't know what it actually did. But there was a big tank out there. We don't have any Kevin's on here, so.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding that? Okay. Next up would be issuing diplomas for different programs.
So it was brought to me by a parent. And asked me if my child goes to Graduation Alliance, do they get a Prosser High School diploma? And I couldn't answer that question. So I'm here today to ask us to begin the thought process. When you have an open doors program, which is our re-engagement program through Columbia Basin College, and we have a Graduation Alliance, which is an alternative learning environment, right? There are multiple ways in which you do this, so it gets a little in the weeds, but I think I need to explain a little bit. So when a student's a student at Prosser High School, and for whatever reason, they transfer to Graduation Alliance, or and do their work online, or they go to Open Doors, they still are our student. They're in a different entity, and they participate in those programs. And traditionally what happens is they transfer from this Prosser entity to this Prosser entity. But then to get their diploma, they come back to the original high school. And it's kind of semantics. It kind of happens in the background. And so this parent was asking, well, if they do this, are they going to get a Prosser High School diploma? And so some districts have a school district diploma, and they have a Prosser High School diploma. My understanding, Prosser Falls used to have its own graduation, had its own diploma, and then Prosser High School had a diploma, correct?
Correct.
So you had two different diplomas in the past. Now Prosser Falls is no longer operational, but you do have these other programs. I don't really have a dog in the fight on this one. I just need to know the thought process. So there's a couple pieces. We do say to the school board, and Mr. Bailey says in his speech at the opening of graduation, the students sitting here before you have met the requirements of the Prosser School District and the state of Washington, and deserve their diploma, the little script thing, right, that's read. So regardless of what the decision is, they still meet the requirements of the Prosser School District for graduation and for the state of Washington. The discussion did they really go to Prosser High School to get their diploma? Or did they go to the Prosser School District's other program? And so that's the reason it's at a study session and a discussion. I want you to think about it, ask questions at the next time. It's not something that has to be decided today. It doesn't even have to be decided, and it is actually something that you decide when a student enters their freshman year. You can't change the ship in the rules in the middle of the game. So I did not know how to answer the parent, and I'd like to have a talk about it.
How does it, so you know how you can go on the state report card and see Prosser High School graduation rate. If you go to Prosser High School and Prosser School District, does that become separate?
Well, only if we identify them as graduating from those entities.
Okay.
Right now, they transfer out and then they transfer back in. So they would get a Prosser High School diploma.
Is this just a heading on the certificate?
You know what, on your diploma, if you think about it, it says Prosser High School or Prosser School District. So
Like-
it's a way to ensure, here's where it comes from. This parent says, I don't want to go to this program if they're not going to get a Prosser High School diploma.
I could
They are
see-
getting a Prosser High School.
Now
diploma.
they are,
now.
they are now. I just want to make sure I'm not saying something or that you don't understand what we're doing. That was it.
Cause it is different. It is a different program. And I don't know.
So when you go into
Solve the
your
problem. Yeah.
your freshman year, oh, go ahead.
No, My opinion, my personal opinion, we offer programs that meet the needs of the students. And if that program is Prosser, this Graduation Alliance, we're offering that because that's where they're gonna be most successful. We're offering Running Start because that's where they're gonna be most successful, but they are still our students. We're just giving them the opportunity. So my personal opinion is that they should all receive a Prosser High School.
That's where I was gonna get to. Thank you.
I too agree that, I just, here's what it is, this is one of these, when you're the new kid on the block. I did not want to open my mouth and insert my foot without us having a discussion about it.
I like the way we're doing it now.
I think we need to fix. it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is something that your school counselors, right? And your administrative team, when you're meeting with the parent and making that decision, the parents need to understand they don't understand the weed part of it. But when we honor a graduation, there are students from Running Starts, all over different Running Starts, Open Doors in the audience, or in the people we are honoring from all of our different programs. So, thank you for that discussion, and it just is something that we have to discuss openly and be open with our community.
Moving on to item 5 would be attendance tracking, warns.
So, attached in your document is what is WARNS, Washington Assessment of Risk and Needs Assessment or something like that. I don't know, the WARNS, everybody has their own acronyms. So I want everybody to understand, we're doing attendance and we run into a attendance success plan prior to going to truancy, that we are responsible for doing a WARNS assessment, which is a state directed program. It identifies one of 7 areas that may be of need. For example, one time I was working on a WARNS assessment and we did not know that the student who was struggling had 3 deaths in their family in the last 9 months. Through the WARNS assessment, we realized they were really attached to the cousin who lived in 3 states away. I just wanted you to be aware that this is going on. Parents can choose to opt out. They don't have to do the WARNS assessment, but it is a great tool for finding needs of students when we do that. I didn't know if anybody had talked to you about the WARNS assessment before. It is part of our truancy process. So when a student is identified as having the number of absences that potentially lead them to truancy, the first step is a parent meeting, what's called a success plan. We do a success plan. That student is either successful or not. We have our community engagement board where we pull them in. They need to do a WARNS assessment before they actually would be directed to attend truancy court per se.
Is this K through 12?
6-12.
How many absences?
Well,
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
really different per student. 7 unexcused in 30 day, in any rolling 30 days, 10 in a year, unexcused, right? Truancy issues. Sometimes the excuse fall into it, but not normally. It's just a requirement. The judge will not even see them unless we have our proper WARNS paperwork done. Anything else on that, Brian, that you want to add just for discussion? Okay. I just was more of an awareness. I just thought it was important to make sure we're covering the WARNS.
I was gonna say this, I guess I will. I feel like this program, when I got dropped a little bit during COVID,
Yep.
it's coming back, we're trying to reestablish it. David Funk is very instrumental in this. And was the majority of this at our building level. And it is a successful program. And we're excited to see it grow.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, moving on to item 6 is on over. Yeah.
Right. So Ashley, oh, Ashley, Did you get my PowerPoint? Sorry. Okay, no, the one I sent you just a little bit ago from, nope. The one I sent you to your email just a little bit ago.
Mustang.
Yeah,
Which how far played of the Mustangs back.
that one. Could you open that one? I'm so sorry. We were having connectivity issues and.
Your fall colors up there.
I was doing fall colors.
It is.
There we go. Anthony, can you just confirm you can see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. All right, so you can skip that. That's just a typical conversation. So today I want to talk about our levy that's coming up. And make sure everybody who's listening or so forth, it is a replacement levy. What does that mean? Right, so we're replacing the levy that's coming to an end, right? And so it's not a new item that we're adding to anyone's taxes. And then I thought, depending on your age, right, Peggy, we used to call them maintenance and operation levies. And now. we
Hey,
call-
no, wait a minute.
Your level.
I find a fence with that.
Yeah, your level of experience.
Okay, that's.
So there we go. The maintenance and operation levy is now called the educational programs and operations, EP&O. Why have the name changed? It used to be a big focus on keeping the power on, the lights open and the roof. That was where it came from. And then it expanded to educational programs and other things. Examples were field trips, infrastructures for technology, athletics, the arts, the things that basic education allocation just does not cover. Our security officers, our nurses, the number of paraprofessionals. And also talking about capital levy is something that is kind of new to the Prosser community. Capital levy is a shorter term than a bond. It's smaller and it's for substantially smaller things in our programs in our district. There's a saying that helped us when I was in superintendent school. Bonds are for buildings. Okay, so capital levies are for things that our maintenance and operation levy can't really sustain or we cannot build on. Things such as the technology related to security, smaller facility projects. We talked a little bit ago about the tennis courts or the track or the different pieces. And so that would be an example of capital levy. Ashley, can you go to the next one? So at the last levy, there was a 2-year levy. It was for $2.13 per thousand. And anybody who's listening, I know that we do not vote on $2.13. That generates an X number of dollars, and the levy is actually for an amount of money, but this is what was explained to the voters at that time. This levy, we're hoping to ask for a 4-year levy at $2 per thousand. Now you may say, everything in inflation, how can we ask for less money and deal with inflation? Well, if you've opened your tax things lately, your assessed values of your properties and the new construction in our school district has gone up almost $50 million. And so the asking for less per thousand actually generates us equal or to or more than what we have received in the past. In our capital levy, if we ask for 35 cents per thousand under 4 years, knowing our current assessed values, we just received this number. This is a factual number from the county. Our 2024 assessed values were $2.083 billion, generates about $729,000 in capital levy.
That's $729 million.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just
It's
one of those,
missing it needs to be, oh my
got
goodness.
an extra 3 numbers in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's 729,000.
That would be incredible.
That would be
That would be
awesome.
amazing.
I'd say my
Oh, I
fingers
get that.
did it. Yeah, you're like
Yeah.
729,000. So let me tell you what I'm gonna share a couple more slides, but I want to talk about that number. We talk about planning and planning for the unforeseen and being prepared. And that number does some of these projects we're gonna talk about in here in a minute, but it also, to Delise and Craig, we've talked about this. Think of it, it's also adding to our savings and our coffers for that rainy day stuff, or the things that we can't predict. Or things we wish to do, so that we can start that long-term planning. And we know that when we plan these projects out, we can plan ahead and sustain and keep moving forward with these projects. So if you could go to the next slide. So, our property values, I'm gonna actually stand up, and I'm sorry for those who are in the audience. This was 2018, and the total tax responsibility to our taxpayers between the school bond and the EP&O levy was about $6 per thousand. Then in 2019, there was the changes in McCleary. Okay, so we went to 422. You'll see the total ask of our taxpayer, or what they actually paid, these are real numbers, was 438, 265 for the bond and $1.73. As the total dollars we're wanting or needing, our assessed values go up, what we have to charge to get that same amount of money goes down. Are you with me so far? So then things changed, and you had a levy in here, the numbers went up. This is what your actual tax per thousand was. You have, this was the ask in 22 for these 2 years, which our levy is going to end. The ask was 213, and it ended up being 205. And the bond went down to 242, so the 446 was the actual paid per thousand. And then in 2024, notice a little asterisk, it's not completely done yet, is about $1.87 when the ask was 213. Predicted ask was 213, and it ended up being, we're predicting that it'll end up right at 398. Okay, so far, want to change the slide for me? So we talk about capital levy projects. Remember 35 cents per thousand. One of the projects we're talking about is the Housel Middle School. Now, this is from Architects West about
6 years ago.
okay. So this is the current front doors, making a vestibule, securing this, changing the cameras and so forth. This is one of the projects that our capital levies could do. Go to the next one. We've already taken out the shrubs. I'm going to orient you. This is the new high school here. This is where we just took out all right here. See the ticket booth? So this is where the little orange fence is right now, where the shrubs were. I'll talk to you about this ramp. So this is our parking lot. This is already existing, was part of the new building structure. At some point, and remember I wasn't here, some of you may have been, when the building was coming in over budget, this was something they didn't do at the time. And this right here was one of the options in the original drawings, and that's the reason we haven't had to, it was already drawn from Architects West. So this then, the handicap parking is down here. It goes out and around, and this is a ramp, and this is where our current wall is. The little Mustang, the horse is right here, just trying to put you in right. So this would go along here. There's laws and regulations, and I'm not going to quote them. You have to be less than a 5% change in so many feet, and that's how this works. This that I circled right here is the stairway. So you chose to go up, you could go from the ticket booth up the stairs and across the walkway. This right now is some dirt and so forth, and this is a landing, then could be additional wheelchair or handicap accessible seating or places for that. And then this goes back to the concessions. And then the handicap parking also at the top, right by the greenhouses, could come down, come this way and come down, so be it that they needed to. So that's that piece. That's a project. If you'll look up here, we got some really rough numbers like today. That's the reason this PowerPoint was not in your packet. This is approximately, not the red, from here to here is approximately $190,000. That ramp. This staircase, if we went to bid, we would call it a bid alternate. So this is approximately $100,000 to put that stairway. And so the securing of the dirt, the wall, the landings, the railings, all of the pieces that go along with that. So that's one project. You can go to the next slide. Okay,
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Go back.
go back.
Is this, can you talk about the rationale for the staircase?
It's just an option, so people who walked over here, paid their ticket, didn't have to walk back over here to go up the hillside.
But the bottom walkway is still there to get to the stadium seating.
This seating is still here, this doesn't change. This is just a way to walk up.
Can I ask another question?
Uh-huh.
I don't mean to step
No,
on the-
no.
Have you thought about a ADA compliant ramp that goes from that lower walkway?
About $500,000,
Okay.
because
So
of
not
the,
the equivalent of the stairs.
so here's what happens. Because of that percentage of grade, it has to go out here. And then it has to have a landing, and it has to be a 20-foot by 20-foot pad. And then it has to come back here and have a 20-foot pad and has to have railing. And then it has to go back up here. And that whole hillside has to be secured differently because of that railway.
Each one of those, because of the way the hill is, they'll have to dig it in. The form of
I
a
guess
retaining wall.
what was in my head was if you're taking it from west to east. So you go halfway, 3/4 of the way down now.
Come up here and show me. Because we've done a lot of these drawings.
So rather than thinking of it in terms of starting your staircase here or your pathway here or here, what if you took a pathway? I mean, our gate is,
This is
Here.
the ticket booth.
By the red.
right, so this is the gate
Mhm.
to access the field,
Yeah.
gate to access the
Mhm.
field. Have we thought about a pathway from here
You have to come all the way back to here.
to here?
Yes, but it's so steep, it actually is here and a 20-foot pad and a retaining wall, and then here and a.
Cause you have to have all those breaks for rest.
Yeah.
Once you break,
4%, I think.
4%, you can only go, what was it, like 120 feet? and
It's
have
not,
to go
yeah, right,
landing.
yep,
Even,
you have to have
even
these-
if you continue on. you still
has to have these
rest.
20 rest pads, and they have to be able to hold so many.
And the only reason I'm asking that is because I
Seems
believe
like an
that
elevator might be
one of
cheaper.
the desires of our community is to have easier access from the upper to the field.
Yep.
For events such as
Yep.
graduation, homecoming.
Yep.
like that. So this pathway, though an improvement, still seems like an awful long way.
Yes, we agree 1,000%.
We had talked about going from just above the ticket booth over to the east and doing it that way too. But was it one and a
They're so
half
steep.
degrees too?
Yeah,
steep?
1.5 degrees too steep. And I want you to know, architects worked on this for a long time to try and come up with
Then you move the ticket booth?
oh, we could move the ticket booth anywhere. You mean to just put the ticket booth over here?
Why not just move the
Yeah.
ticket booth over
Yeah.
there and then spend $100,000 on stairs?
But
And
you
that's-
still have to have something for, I guess you could fence it all and put it farther towards the parking lot
Yeah.
maybe.
So I'm just saying that this is one of the items for the capital levy. These are some projected things. And I think that's why you notice this is circled in red, sir. It's an alternate. It's not something that we have to do. We could choose to or choose not to do that. This is what, Architects West could give us for the sake of planning for capital levy.
And the second part of that is as an alternate, it doesn't have to be this year.
Yeah. Could be something else. Okay, Ashley. So there is the west side ramp and stairs. So the one thing I want you to understand is if we tackle the west side, we can take out the shrubs and we can put trees and we can make it beautiful. If we put one ramp or one stair, it has to be ADAs also. And because the distance this way is less, the cost is going to be way more astronomical because we'd have to go this and this and this and this and this to get up that hillside. And you can't just put in stairs. Because once you touch it, it has to be ADA accessible. So I wanted to make sure that anyone who is listening tonight or doing whatever, it's not that it can't be done, but maybe the solution is cleaning it up, doing whatever, modernizing the landscaping and cleaning up that part of it without touching that side. So, and I really want to read through this. Any thoughts? Like, this is not a Kim show. This is a community thing. I want everybody to know. People call, well, just take out those shrubs and do the same thing. Well, okay, but we got to put if you want a ramp back in, if you want a pathway back in, it has to be ADA accessible. And there really is no way around that. Okay, Ashley? Okay, here's what everybody wants to talk about. This seems to be the hot thing in the community. For everybody here, Deanna, that stack right there, this card. Yep. Everybody can have these. I don't expect you to look at it. This is for out in, I think I have 15, so there's plenty for everybody here. So initially, I was told within my first probably 3 weeks, we got to solve the current. So Andy and I started looking at Howell. We started looking at different locations. And somebody came and said, okay, we need 6 tennis courts. We need 6 courts. And so we met with Architects West. We met with them and they said, well, here's a great spot. It's flat. It has no irrigation in it. It has no problems with it. This isn't a huge project, meaning like astronomical. And so we looked at how we would park, what we would do. You have to have an ADA accessible fee. And here's 6 tennis courts. Yes, they have pickleball. Everybody listening, yes, there is a pickleball option. So the only thing is that I learned Jackson's doing some research for us. The championship or your main court where you finish can't have pickleball lines on it. So you can have 5 of the 6 courts can have pickleball lines, but the 6 or the main one can't. And we're working on that. That's still kind of gossipy. So I haven't got that figured out, but just everybody knows that we're talking about that. So this is the minimum. This is this plus a concession building. Okay, Ashley, you want to go to the next one? This is 8 court.
Question.
Oh, how
The
cool.
middle school has 2 baseball fields and they play 2 baseball games. This would like wipe out their baseball field.
No. No, this is their.
That's one of them. There's 2. There's a 7th grade baseball field too.
Where is it
Hasn't
at?
been used in quite a while that I know of. I was told they didn't use it.
We
I
were
know the
told
other 2 backstops
There's a
were-
different, there's like farther down, but they would use, well, and maybe they don't anymore, but they have 2 baseball teams. That's the 8th grade baseball field. And the 7th grade baseball field, I maybe possibly still usable in this option.
I was told that when we took them out there, that it wasn't used anymore.
Okay.
So and everybody who's listening, this is just a conceptual drawing and understanding, and we will research that. We
I'm
do
just
not want to
curious.
lose anything that we have.
Yeah.
We're not trying to take away from anything. So I was asked then at one of our board meetings, they said, well, we need to have 8 so we can have districts, right? And then, so this is an 8 court option with not much else other than bleachers and some pads. And then they were asking, well, can we have bathrooms and concession stand? And so this is the 8 court option with bathrooms, concession stand, and layout. So Andy and I were very clear, this baseball field had to be enough, whatever the outfield, right?
Yeah.
So the distance was done. So these are the drawings that came to us 2 days ago or so. And this is the piece that we're talking about that I heard from the community. Ashley, can you give me one more? So, this is a little So this has just a little more to it. Here's your prices. 6 tennis courts, about 1.4 million, includes paved parking lot and lighting for both the courts and the parking area. To the top end with the concessions and building at 2.6 million. And those are, when I asked today about those numbers, that includes architecture, engineering, permits. That's just not like, I mean, that's a pretty close to what they felt would be a total package.
Question, Tim, one of the things that we had discussed, when Architects West was here, was for the parking area, they thought they could get away, I shouldn't say get away with, that's wrong. Just have, like 4 ADA spots and a ramp, the rest would stay gravel. That would save us
That's an
fortune.
option as well. We can modify this, and I think this was
Just
as what they came up with. Once again, I needed a conceptual drawing to talk about for levy.
I also just want people to keep in mind that there is soccer, baseball, softball. There's all kinds of things going on in the spring. That is a very tight parking lot. It's gonna, yeah, it's tight. It's gonna create a
I'd be
lot of
shocked if you could get
traffic.
sides on, or, unless we move the fence, take the fence out and move it into the trees to get cars on both sides.
And that's,
still
my
be
guess
able
is
to
that's
drive
where a
through.
lot of money is probably in that parking lot too, is because there's a lot of grading and.
So when he first started talking, when we first talked about, based on about how much bleacher you have, generates how many handicap spots you have to
Yeah.
have in the ramp. So what Andy's saying was originally, we said, just give us what
Like a pad of.
the pad that we, 6
whatever.
or 8
Yeah.
handicap stalls, and not do the rest of it.
Yeah.
So once again, this is their drawing to us.
Is that back in the concession building?
Yes.
Back while we're on the subject, the other thing was, on the 6th auction, it was gonna be 4, like a triangle.
Mhm. And so once,
Which would also shorten it up a little more for
right.
baseball.
And so once again, I think they're trying to give us a concept drawing so they could get us a number. I
Yeah.
think where it is actually laid out in our shape is not necessarily, it's the square footage of the surface, and so these are just conceptual drawings. These are not Kim's babies or anything, this is just some conceptual drawings to get numbers so that we could go to capital levies. So if you could give me a next slide. So we have to really talk about the money, okay? We have to really talk about what we're gonna ask of our community. So remember I showed you that 2024 with a little asterisk on it and the plan of 398. So if we commit to $2 in our EP&L levy, and because our assessed value of our property is going up, he was conservative at $2.10. It's probably more 209 or 208, but we're not gonna share that. We wanna say it's gonna be more and be happy when it's less, not the other way around, correct? And so if we did 210 and $2 would be 410. If we add the 35-cent capital levy in, we're at 445, which was what was less than what the total taxpayer was paying the last time you went to levy. Or the ask is less than what we were asking for last time. Today is a discussion. So
What's the total dollar?
well, so if, other than my comma and my decimal being in the wrong place, this capital levy right here is about 729. And if we, Mr. Mathematician,
You take the 2 billion.
yes, times
Divided by 1,000.
1,000 times $2. It's like
200 or 2 million, whatever, times the.
$2 is like 4 million, correct? So this generates about 4 million for our operation. This generates about 729,000, a million, 729,000. Oh, excuse me, I said that backwards. Pardon me. $2 generates, and this is the bond, the top.
The bond goes how much?
I don't know what it was. Does anybody know what the bond was?
Like,
The
The
school
bond was
bond?
approved,
Yes, this bond.
64 million,
Million.
I think.
64 million.
Yeah, so that's,
Yeah.
we're at
6 or
64. So we're
64.
here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Six- I thought it was
9,
like
10,
69.
11.
It's in the sixties.
So we're at year 11 at the end of this 4-year levy projection. That would be in year 11. So we'd have 9 years left on that bond. Is it 20 year?
I think it was 15.
Yeah, it was 15, cause it was like 25 cents cheaper.
Oh, so
On
we'd
payback.
be close to that
Yeah,
dropping off
close.
by the next. So that's the conversation piece, right? What Corey Plager from DA Davidson and I were working on was this last time when they asked, this was what was $2.13 plus the 242 was even more than what we're asking for with the capital levy piece.
Because of property value.
Because probably, so I don't want anyone who's listening for me to tell you, transparent with a smile and love, that your taxes are going down. I'm telling you that what we're asking for per thousand
You're
is,
selling.
right, I'm saying, I don't want anybody to see I'm misleading.
What about girls softball?
So, go ahead to the next slide. Oh, never mind, I took it out. So we've got the girls, so 729,000, if we did 730,000 times 4 years, right? We would have some money in there to do the concession stand and bathrooms at baseball and softball. We would have other pieces to plan for that expansion that you're talking about and doing a facilities plan for long term. Right? Because that's the other piece in this. I used to tell people when I was really poor, and I was really poor a couple times in my life, my mom used to say to me, well, why don't you go to Costco and buy peanut butter? You know, you get the 2 jars because I don't have $13.98 to spend on peanut butter. And you only have $3 to spend on peanut butter at that time in my life. So I look at this in something line of like that. If we can plan and do a 4-year levy and we can do this, we can start that planning that we need to do to meet our strategic plan and to do the facility planning and dream and repair and really up the ante on how we take care of, and what I call be a good steward of money. It's really hard to be good stewards of money when you're always fixing and catching up. You've got to be proactive. And that's the reason for that. So the timeline says we're at today. We're sharing October 25th. We're going to have to work on our levy committees, open discussion, question and answer. November 8th, we're going to have an open levy committee. That's our first meeting. Somewhere in here, we have to do a school board resolution because before December 15th, we have to go to Benton and Clickitat County and file for our levy. And before that, we have to say, we're going to ask for 4 million in EPN or what, we have to have those exact numbers. But I can't do that by myself. And I have to have the community's help and understanding what are they willing to help and what are they willing to do and where do we stand together. And so this is the timeline. And somewhere in here, and then if we're going to celebrate the levy, there's really hard work from this December 15th date until the date that we go to where the ballots are due. And so it's about 10 weeks, give or take, of really hard work. Communication. So if you go to the next slide. So this is the piece. It's about communication, open public webinars, flyers, and being accessible. Can we really talk about what we're going to do and what we're asking? Do we have the right people answering the question? Sharing our needs. We can't be afraid to talk about the money. We can't be afraid. If we beat around the bush or we do whatever, it feels icky. We have to be able to talk about it. We have to let people know this is a replacement levy. It's not a new levy. Now, the capital levy is new. So I gotta be really careful when I say that, right? The EPNO levy is not new. The capital levy is new. But if they want these not be for building, not bond things, to happen in our community, we have to have a way to pay for them, and we can't pay for them out of green money or blue money. We have to have a way that we can pay for them. And anything you want to add to that? We have to be able to pay for those requests out of capital levy, and we have to plan for that.
You might also want to mention that the capital levy still is a simple majority
Oh, yes,
plus, 50% plus one.
yes. That's another reason that districts of, our school districts have gone to capital levies for most things other than B for buildings, which are bonds. Because, we only have to do the simple majority versus the 60%. The other thing that people need to know, we get levy equalization money. So I don't know the exact number, 112, 132, whatever. So here's how it works. You pass a levy, they're gonna give you, the state is gonna give you levy equalization money. Because if you are in Bellevue, that money generates, 10 cents generates how much, right? Versus our $2 generates how much, right? So it's called levy equalization. But if you don't pass, you don't get your levy equalization money. It's
So we're asking for 4 million and the state's gonna give us.
1.5, give or take. Not exactly, but it's close. Okay, and then we have to be transparent. We have to give accurate information. We can't be afraid to ask people for our help. We can't. We have to be able to converse with them. Money's not easy to talk about. I don't know if you ever tried to talk to your parents about money. I don't know. It's horrible. I'm 58 and they still want to coach me on what I can do with my house, right? I mean, money is not an easy conversation. But we have to make the discussion about the students and our education. It has to be about the students. Right? It has to be about the students. And we need Prosser to be able to truly get back on that top cutting edge facilities, graduation rates, education, attendance. We want people moving in because things are going well. And the way we do that is by proving to the community and the people where we work that we support the schools. So you know how to reach me. That's the levy piece. I know it sounded kind of like a sales pitch, but we have to get the word out and we have to practice accordingly.
Any questions? Regarding the levy,
No, that was good information.
Peggy?
For anybody who's listening, because I really challenge you to push on me. Let me answer your questions. Help me to help you understand so that you can help our community understand. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I'll have a number of questions. I just gotta get them out of my head and on
On paper.
paper.
Okay.
And tonight's probably not the best
Nope.
night for that. So thank you for that. And this will be an ongoing discussion for a number of weeks, so.
Mhm.
Moving on to policy and procedure 6970, naming of school facilities.
So we were just asked to hunt that up. We hunted it up. And I don't know.
Nobody has to be dead.
Yeah, nobody has to be deceased to be.
It
have
does
something-
say the use of names of living persons will be avoided unless circumstances warrant an exception. So they prefer your dead?
But
Where
there's
does
nothing.
it say that at?
It's on the procedure.
Oh, I don't.
It's
the draft, no
A3
markup.
on the draft procedure that it's easiest to see probably in the no markup.
Oh,
It's, yeah.
My
Just
only,
saying.
my only thought in naming of things is what etiquette's the right word or policy or procedure in naming everything. We have We want
Yeah.
everything to be named. You want the track to have the name, the field to have the name,
Oh.
sessions, I
Oh
mean,
my
is there a
God.
limit? Or
There-
is there no limit?
I mean, to me, there should be a limit, but then how do you limit it? And then, I mean, because to have a facility named after you, there has to be like a significant reason. Commitment of time and years and all kinds of things. So, I mean, it is a big deal. This is a big deal. I mean, when they name schools and communities get kind of crazy over
Passionate.
that, so.
So I met with Noah and Caitlin in our weekly meeting today, and Noah's, so you can, you know how Noah's into statistics. So does anybody know? He told me the Cincinnati Bengals play at, or no. Who plays at Arrowhead Stadium? Cincinnati Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs. So Kansas City Chiefs play at Arrowhead Stadium, but they play in Arrowhead Stadium on like US Bank Field. Right? So he was using that as an example. So if we have Art Fiker Stadium, do we have, you know, blank, blank field, blank, blank track, right? So he brought that up because he knew we were going to talk about it. So he asked me to bring that up tonight. So if you do something like that, you don't give up Art Fiker Stadium
Mhm.
to add something else, because you can have the stadium be someone's name and a field be something else inside the stadium.
And I don't think renaming Art Fikers
Ever
an
gonna be.
option.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how long that's been there, but it's been a while.
I think it was 1979 or 81 when it was finalized, and it's been part by for
Yeah.
I think that's when he was hired.
But I do think it's, you know, naming the field or naming the track or the, you know, the tennis courts that, you know, as we start doing some of these projects, I do think it's appropriate. I had a question. Seems like, and maybe it, just in the policy, it kind of limits us to who can do it. And it's only persons who have attained national or local prominence in fields of education, arts, science, politics, military achievement, statesmanship, or yada, yada, yada. But I know there's a lot of people within this community that may not have been in the education field that have been a part of not only this community, but the school district over a long period of time. Is there a way to wordsmith that differently?
I think you could probably do something if you wanted to do and or major or community partnership or community involvement or something.
Just say at the top, it says have attained national or local prominence.
In the fields. That's where I'm getting stuck.
But, yeah, see, so I guess to me, those categories are, it's very wide range.
Okay.
Because I read it the same way, I'm like, well, they have to be nationally recognized, that, but if it says local prominence, I think that
So let's say we have, I'm gonna use my dad's name, John Casey, Farmer X, right? Does he qualify for one of those categories if he's never done in those other things?
if he is,
On this policy.
That's the way I would read it.
Mhm.
I mean, you could
I'm
take.
just gonna use his name
yeah.
because nobody knows.
I mean,
so
you
it's
could
just
have
like-
somebody that was a huge donor or something that wasn't part of the district. But as a huge community figurehead.
If they donated that much money, then they would have donated it to the education cause and they're part of the education system.
That, yeah, if that's the way we read it.
I think
You
we
know,
could
that's all I'm
probably
saying.
wordsmith or add,
Yeah.
I think you could add or we
Okay.
could add a major community, that we could add one more line and cover so that almost anybody.
You could also
To
have
me,
a
it still makes sense so
community
that it's some sort of, something they've done for education or for the,
Or maybe we add the word donor or
Uh,
something.
I just, yeah.
You could always have a community member that was tirelessly that read to fourth graders every Tuesday for 15 years or whatever. But by, yeah,
Civic,
something like
maybe.
that, but by this matrix, they wouldn't.
So maybe, yeah, something.
Maybe adding
and-
civic.
So I disagree. I think if you're using your example, Andy, someone that read to fourth graders for, I think that falls under fields of education.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody.
Okay.
I mean, so for instance, somebody lobbied for the auditorium tirelessly for, months. But by this matrix then wouldn't qualify to have it named after them, even though they were, that 90% of the reason we have
The
it.
policy also speaks to naming new school or new facilities. And it's not as like, I don't know, because some of this would obviously be renaming. If we are naming something that already exists, because it talks about naming school district facilities, then it says, board will list not less than 3 nor more than 5 names for the new school. It's pretty,
Which one is that?
it's the policy, I mean, the procedure. The board will select the name of the new facility from the list. And so it just would, I mean, if we're
We
gonna
can
use it,
wordsmith it a little
it
bit.
needs a little just more, so it can talk about just facility more, maybe more general about facilities.
No, I think it's appropriate and I think it's probably a good time to revive this
Okay.
policy and get, especially
Well, we'll
with
wordsmith it and bring you a red line option.
as we button up the track, maybe it's a good opportunity to do something.
And then would it be part of a committee discussion or should it be policy regarding ethical concerns? Like, we want somebody that's committed a major crime. I mean, if somebody's, a crime of dishonesty. I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, I would say automatically.
So we could work on wordsmith of that as well.
Would that be in the procedure though, right?
Mhm. And we'll do what, we've listened to you tonight and we'll do those things and,
I'm sure the district.
yeah, we're good at education. We go look at a bunch of other people's policies and procedures and see where we can.
Right.
Or smart enough.
Any other comments regarding the policy and procedure 6970?
Thank you
Okay.
for bringing it.
Yeah, thank you. Any other items? We can discuss. Okay, hearing none, future meetings. We'll have a special board meeting October 24th, 2023, right here at the Prosser High School Library Workroom at 5:30 p.m. and a regular board meeting on October 25th, 2023, same place, right here in the library at 6 p.m. Hearing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.